Well, let's talk about these property tax bills, because after months of delay, they became available in Cook County this week. So what was the holdup?
The holdup. It depends on who you ask. So this basically came down to
what was the holdup?
What was the holdup?
This basically came down to tech issues. So for years and years, most of the county property tax offices have been using a mainframe computer, which is like COBOL. I could not run it if you paid me. Just the oldest
mainframe. That was
out of it
years ago.
Old-fashioned movies where there's this whole room.
Giant punch cards.
I'm like, why is childhood
it's a whole
coming
wall
up?
of computers.
Okay.
So basically, during the transition, when data was moving from the assessor's office, who's in charge of doing property values, deciding what your property is worth, to the Board of Review, which hears appeals. It's like a judicial panel that hears appeals. They had a problem with the transfer. And the Board of Review said, Assessor Fritz Kagi, you should have built like a dual track system so we could be getting old, crummy mainframe data that works with our system while you're also updating the new stuff. Long story short, they eventually fixed it, but having those delays screwed over everyone else in the property tax timeline. Like you can't create the bills until you know what the final values are. You can't know the final values until it makes it through the assessor and the Board of Review.
There's some finger pointing going on behind the scenes.
Lots of finger
It's the Cook County
pointing.
assessor, the Board of Review. I want to play a clip. We talked to Fritz Kagi on Reset earlier this week, and here are his thoughts on the Board of Review.
The Cook County Board of Review is sort of systematically undervalued commercial properties in the way that Assessor Barrios did before I came into office, and it's resulted in very lopsided changes. They reduced commercial properties, the Board of Review, by about 24 percentage points, but residential by just a little bit more than 1 percentage point.
So the assessor is blaming the Board of Review for homeowners' higher property taxes. Is that right?
That's right. So not only do they disagree on how to implement technology, they disagree on the very, very basic tenets of how to assess properties. Like the assessor is using certain qualifications for commercial properties because, as a past Tribune investigation has shown and other independent reports have shown, the property tax system here was very unequal. And the commercial property owners were bearing less of the burden than they should have.
Yeah.
So Fritz said, I'm going to change the way I do the math over here. Okay, we're gonna value commercial properties in a way that truly reflects their value, is closer to their sale price. And the Board of Review has said, we disagree, essentially. So often, commercial property owners don't like what they hear from Fritz. They take it to the Board of Review, and the Board of Review says, we agree. And that means, especially on multi-million-dollar properties, that their value gets lowered. And when it's multi-million-dollar properties, that's a huge amount of burden shifting back onto homeowners.
And what a window of time for something like this to be happening when you're looking at, for example, office properties, which you could argue have become less valuable because folks aren't going into the workplace. And yet that doesn't do anything to shift historic wrongs or right that ship. I mean, it is political by its very nature, as well as more an art than a science.
And I did ask the assessor, I said, how much could COVID have accounted for what the Board of Review passed back on to homeowners? Because we saw huge commercial vacancies, lowered rents, lots of expenses to stay open, cleaning protocols during COVID, stuff like that. And he was like, this is way too big to have just been COVID.
So lots of folks online agreeing with the timing. Chicago 675 says, wait, they came out right after Election Day.
Exactly 1 week after election.
And then Shamrock Bloom says, yes, convenient timing. But I know someone in this room is feeling this. You took a closer look at your property taxes, Monica.
I'm feeling it big.
What did you find?
A couple weeks ago, I was on stage with Fritz Kagi at an AXIOS event. And I said, okay, so, Joe Barrios was like really sticking it to the residents, but you got this new formula that's going to help us out. He said, yeah. And I said, so am I going to see any rise in my property tax? He said, where do you live? Lakeview. Oh, you're going to see steady to drop. So imagine my surprise when I looked at my bill, a 71% increase.
And had you appealed at the board or at the assessor's office?
But that's not that hasn't. It's not clear yet whether I'm going to get that. It was an 82% increase in the assessed value. 71 somehow. Everybody in the world wants a crappy 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 100-plus-year-old building condo in Lakeview. And I couldn't believe it. So I talked to people from the assessor's office. Like, that's really interesting. Maybe it was undervalued before. Well, undervalued for the last decade, and suddenly the year that everything was supposed to get better for residents, I'm seeing this. So
I'm sorry, Monica.
I think there is going to be that's part of this. There's the anger and frustration. And I did, because ours went up significantly as well. I don't believe by 71%. But I mean, we're talking like triple digits of going up in terms of a higher bill. And what does that mean for folks, especially those who haven't yet gone online to check once those come in the mail?
Oh, December's not going to be pretty for the assessors.
No, I think at holiday time, as we're potentially entering a recession, or at least some economic tumult has already begun and could get worse, it's going to be very difficult. And I don't think... Am I saying that it was delayed until after the election? No. Am I saying that, sure, that's convenient to drag it out a little bit so that the entire Democratic ticket wouldn't perhaps get punished for it? No, that it's not out of the realm of, all right, let's at least factor that in.
Maybe the delay was justified, but I can imagine a lot of people would be super hot under the collar if this came out before.
And they're going to continue to be, I think, as Monica mentioned, where some neighbors, you might have 71%, and then some neighbors see it. It's so difficult to understand. So this is not me having studied it or making accusations toward any particular public body. But I do think that it gets to a long-running frustration with property taxes, how it is calculated, how high they are. They are responsible for paying for a lot, including for much of the budget for education, not just in Chicago,
but in the schools. $141 million increase in what they took, and that's what the assessors were like. Well, CPS wanted a lot of money, and it's true. 4 generations of Engs have gone through CPS, and we've probably tired out a lot of teachers. But come on, 71, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And the impact of I don't think this late bill problem, based on the way the discussions have been going at the Cook County Board. It does not seem promising like they will be on time again. And that's important for a bunch of reasons. You need to be able to claim it on your federal taxes for the year. You got to be able to pay your bill before December 30th. That was their big goal, was like, these need to be paid by December 30th so people that could count it on their taxes. But for taxing bodies, especially if they're cash strapped or have bad cash flow, if they don't get that revenue from property tax collections, they're screwed in a lot of ways. And the county has done what it could to address it. They did like a short-term loan program.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of continued stress and hardship and
at every level,
difficulty
at the household level and at the government level, which goes back to households.
Right.